let's head over to the casters in the match.
Welcome back. I'm Rain, and I'm joined by Ithaca. We're going to be commentating Hull Control versus Fraternity. The Hull Control bot Oneros for reps, Hugin for control, double Myrmidon, double Ishtar, double Vexer Navy issue, and double Vexer for that drone spam. Ithaca, can you introduce the Fraternity team?
Sure, so Fraternity are actually bringing a flag Balgorn brought by Small P here in order to supplement their Oneros, Navy Harbinger, Dual Navy Brutix, Regular Harbinger, Dual Hound, Dual Daredevil comp. So they're bringing that in. It looks like they went over some control, the classic battle cruisers that we've seen so far, along with some bombers for DPS, and looks like Daredevil for fast tackle. So this should be an interesting match here. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, so interestingly, or kind of expected, Hull Control warped all in at 50, so being drone comps, they don't really have to be too close to their opponent. And it's probably good that they did, because Fraternity's flag ballot is 20 is 20 from the center. So therefore, I believe that's just on the edge of his officer web range, assuming he has those.
Yeah, it really depends if Fraternity have chosen to go the pimp route. If they've put, for example, a Toby Web on this Balgorn, then every single ship in the whole control roster here is in web range immediately. So if we see a web land on that Oneros as soon as the match starts, then we know that Fraternity going massively pimp here on that Balgorn, and it's going to be very hard for that Oneros to get away. So 6 seconds left before we see these drones just drop off, and hopefully the whole control team will just kite off, get in those MJD beacons, and prepare to drop some serious damage.
Yeah, they will have to act pretty quickly. They do have that Hugin for those long-range webs and target painters, so I believe their intent was to try and keep all of the Fraternity ships away. However, with the Balgorn obviously having longer webs and stronger webs, I don't know if they will be able to do that. Instantly, Fraternity primaries this Myrmidon.
Yeah, looks like we're seeing Newts already landing on that Oneros, coming for perhaps from the Balgorn, but that's some seriously long-range Newts right now, so he must be pretty well pimped for that as well. The Myrmidon is taking damage, but so far he is tanking. Mini Bren in the Oneros doing a pretty alright job, and the Fraternity team not really doing much in the way of moving around. They are pretty stationary over there, just choosing to chill out and hit from long range. But I mean, some of them are turning around. We're seeing the Daredevils, which initially burned away, turning and starting to burn back. It looks like they're trying to position themselves to the side of the whole control team there. We're seeing Slofa in a Daredevil really starting to pull off to the side, trying to sneak round to the whole control team here without getting directly hit by any incoming damage.
Yeah, so the Fraternity Balgorn is actually moving towards Hull Control, and they, as you predicted, backed away towards this MJD beacon. I think what Fraternity is trying to do is see where they jump to. So if once that Balgorn gets close, and if he doesn't have a scram, then the Hull Control team can jump away, and so Fraternity has to be prepared to counter that and to be able to catch them. And I am not actually seeing any drones. Maybe my brackets are screwed up, but it doesn't look like Hull Control actually is primarying anyone on the Fraternity team. Maybe they're not close enough to actually assign drones or shoot, but I'm not quite sure what Hull Control is doing besides buying time.
Yeah, it looks like they haven't dropped any drones yet. They're all just heading towards that micro jump drive beacon here, looking to get the positioning war done before they start the damage war. We are seeing that Myrmidon. He was initially webbed by the Balgorn, which did chase up a little bit, but again, he is being repped no problem. Even though those newts are hitting him hard, he is still tanking no problem. Now, again, Hull Control still not dropping drones. This would be kind of interesting if they simply forgot to bring drones, which would be a pretty big disaster for a drone comp, but we'll see what they do very soon, I guess. They're all sitting on that beacon just... I'm not really sure what they're up to here.
Yeah, and I do believe they have drones. I think that's what their attack bar is showing, unless they all brought guns, which I wouldn't really think would be too smart for them. But yeah, I'm assuming that they have drones, that they're just deciding to wait before using them, because obviously when they MJD away, they will be 100 kilometers away, so obviously unless they're in control of the Fraternity team or in range of the Fraternity team, there won't be any point of having their drones move. So they could be waiting to drop them till after.
Yeah, we're seeing a couple of them starting to jump. Yeah, so they're jumping off the next beacon now, and the Vexer of Alex in the Hull Control side is taking a lot of damage. If his nearest has already jumped and he is left behind, he could be in serious peril right now. He is into Hull, he is webbed, muted, he's not scrammed though, he could get a jump off, but he can't, he is down. So first blood there to Fraternity, taking them up 5 points because Hull Control choosing to bring a 1 point down comp here.
Yeah, and you were correct. Oneros, I believe, was the first one to jump. I was watching him when he teleported. So obviously, the Oneros, while being safe on his own, obviously cannot rep his team. And for whatever reason, the rest of the Hull Control team don't seem to be using that MJD beacon, so they're just kind of want to say just sitting there dying, but they've actually managed to drop drones now, so they are assigning drones. I'm not quite sure who the primary is, maybe that Hound or that Daredevil.
Yeah, I think perhaps they were just really scared of either smart bombs coming from that flag well, or perhaps bombing runs coming from those two hounds. So they're trying to get in such a position where a bombing run on their drones could be quite difficult. Of course, if they dropped right at the start with the Fraternity team 50 kilometers away, those drones would have been approaching the Fraternity team. It'd be super easy for those two hounds to just bomb them off the field, and a lot of drones would die, especially for ships like the Vex Navy, which don't have a particularly large drone bay. That could have been really, really bad for them. But we are seeing the damage land now on a couple of Daredevils, and the nearest for Fraternity is down. That is a big, big trade. I'll happily trade a Vexer and a Myrmidon for a nearest any day. Fraternity now without any logistics left on the field.
Yeah, and so that was very smartly done by Hull. After seeing matches previously where Goons brought a comp with old drones, and then they obviously got smart bombed by a Bal. Or, yeah, I believe it was a Balgorn. Obviously, you never want to really be in that situation. They just now lost their Myrmidon, who has been, I believe, primary majority of the match from what I could tell. And they're focusing on this Harbinger now, getting DPS off the field.
Yeah, that nearest for Hulk is webbed, and he is taking a lot of damage now. He's dropping into his armor, but he is currently sitting pretty. And of course, Fraternity, without having any logistics left, are going to struggle to keep these Daredevils alive if they go charging in. So if they do charge in, it will be on a suicide run.
So I'm actually watching. Fraternity actually has some heavy maintenance bots, and they're not on any of Fraternity ships. They're actually on the Hull Control Oneros. So I'm not sure if this pilot just assigned drones, didn't realize what was going on, but he is actually helping the Hull Control Oneros kind of stay alive. Like, he was dying and he had friendly drones on him the whole time, so... Or, I guess hostile drones, but rep bots.
You know what they say, if you can't beat them, join them, so it looks like that guy might be apping up to Hull Control after this. He wants to go have a little spell in wormhole space. But saying that, Minibren is down, so we're still 30 to 33 Fraternity, just a little bit ahead, but now a Daredevil down on the Fraternity side, so there's no tackle left really on the Fraternity side. So we're down to just the dual Ishtar, Myrmidon, Hugin. That Hugin left on Hull Control is going to be very key to keeping the rest of those Fraternity battle cruisers away from the Hull Control team.
Yeah, it looks like, so I'm watching these Hull Control. They're still sort of spread out there. Some of them kind of caught in the clump of Fraternity ships. But they are, like, what is it, methodically picking away at this Navy Harbinger. It seems like they just pick a primary, go for it, and just put all of their drones on it. And that's kind of the drone swarm that we can see on screen. Whereas Fraternity is primarying this Ishtar, and you have now got him.
Yeah, so it looks like the Fraternity Balgorn, they just started smart bombing as we saw the attack bar for Hull Control just drop massively. A huge amount of drones just got removed from the field.
Yeah, so I just believe one of the Fraternity Hounds actually, I believe, bombed all of the drones off of the Brutix Navy issue, which was being primaried. So even though the Brutix Navy issue would take damage from the bomb itself, obviously all those drones dying ended up being better in the long run.
Yeah, the Hull Control attack bar is now basically non-existent, as it looks like all their drones have been removed, and it really depends. Have they got any drones left to throw out? If they haven't, this is it. This is that they can't kill any more ships. It's just a case of seeing how far the arena you can get, I guess. But there's nothing left they can do. We're seeing no attack bar, so it looks like Hull Control, they had it in hand by the looks of it. They were doing really well, but now with those bombing runs from those two hounds, there's no drones left. So Hull Control, no attack bar at all. Nothing they can do except just try not die, but they are behind on points. So Fraternity, they're pulling it clutch play with those bombs from Swan and Entaro there, I think saving the day for Fraternity.
Yeah, and it does look like from the bomb, or the Hound bombing run, they're now being primaried. I saw those, I believe the Vexers and the Ishtar pull those drones back and then send them out on the Hound, and we have one Hound down. Whereas the other one is attempting to kite the rest of the drones. They are berserkers on him, so they will move a little slower than the Hound. But it does look like they have caught him.
Yeah, a couple of drones coming back out for them now, so luckily it wasn't quite the end of the day quite yet for Hull Control. That Hound, they really need to remove that if they don't want to lose more drones from another bombing run. They are trying, but Berserkers hitting a Hound is not an easy thing to do. So Hull Control down 48 to 57. If they kill this Hound, they will be down by 7 points, meaning they need to still kill one of those Navy Brutixes with what they've got left. And that Vexer Navy, which now by is taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what they're... I'm not sure if they're going to be going for this Navy Brutix now. The Hound no longer has drones on him. Doesn't look like he's being primaried at all. But this Navy Brutix, yeah, he's taking bits of damage. He's in low armor now. Obviously, he'd be armor tanked at least with having an Oneros, but no, obviously no one there to rep him back up.
Yeah, now he is charging after that Balgorn, so if that Balgorn's got smart bombs, he could turn around and start smart bombing those whole control drones off him. But he is very low, dipping into hull, so he could also get killed by his own smart bombs, or perhaps a bombing run now. So if they kill that, they will actually go up on points, and whole control taking what could have been a very embarrassing loss when it looked like they had lost all their drones, just repositioning, getting ready, and dropping new sets. So whole control really doing really well actually in this match.
Yeah, they are behind on points with only a minute left, but I believe that they can turn this around. They kill this Navy Brutix, and hopefully their Vexor Navy issue can stay alive. It doesn't look like he will. He's in deep hole. Oh my gosh, he's barely hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, so he goes down there, and I'm not sure if they kill this Navy Brutix, that would be 13 points. So that would put them on 61, which is not enough. So in less than 1 minute, they have to kill 2 Navy Brutixes with only a Myrmidon and Ishtar left for damage, both of them seemingly down drones. I think, unfortunately, that's just not enough time for whole control here. Fraternity looks like to be shooting a couple of the drones while working on that Myrmidon.
Yeah, and actually, this Balgorn has chased both the Hugin and I believe the Ishtar to the edge of the arena. They're sitting at like 100 kilometers, but that's not a lot of space to move. This other Navy Brutix is approaching them as well. I believe, I'm not quite sure who they're primarying. It looks like, I want to say maybe this Myrmidon, but the Myrmidon's pretty far away from his teammates. Obviously, if he had links, his team won't reach them, since links are now AoE instead of region-wide or space-wide.
Yeah, so that is that Navy Brutix down, but it is too little too late with only 12 seconds left. Very low attack bar on both sides. It looks like Fraternity had been just shooting the drones for the whole control team. Pretty good choice there, because they're 5 points ahead. They take the victory. Whole control dropping out of the tournament here. This is it for them. And what a fantastic match. Really good job by both teams there. We saw some great bombing runs by Fraternity. Really exciting. So we'll hand that one back to the guys in the studio.
EVE Dublin returns this October 20th and 21st. For tickets and more details, please visit www.evedublin.com.
Hey guys, welcome back, and immediately we have a wonderful little replay here of a little thing that happened during the match that you may have missed if you weren't looking too closely. Here we have some reps going off as you'd expect, but not on the target you would expect. We actually have reps going off on the opponent's ships here as the mouse is currently mousing over. So yeah, generally speaking, rep your allies, damage the enemies, not the other way around. Now, we do see from Fraternity here, very interesting comp that I quite like. So it's that Balgorn plus NBC core, but given the point increase to the Balgorn over last year, you have to find something to do with the lower end. So you've got the 2 Daredevils at 2 points, makes sense, we've seen people doing that. However, Fraternity have gone for a double Hound. Now, this is a very interesting choice. You obviously have a lot of damage output from the Torps against a BCs and up. They would tend to take a lot of damage from an NBC core, or they can just get volleyed straight off. But against drones, if you are very, very lucky and very, very good with your bombs, you can actually bomb drones. Of course, you have 12 seconds of flight time, so if your opponents are on it, they can pull back their drones in time, especially if they have drone nav comps going on the bonus drone hulls we see. And then from hull control, we have a very nice comp using all of the Vexor hulls, double Myrmidon and a Neros with the Hugin for long-range webs. Interestingly, they have used the mids on this armor team to fit tracking disruptors, which really help them a lot against these NBCs. And we can see here the ships slowly going down. But still, what are you guys' thoughts on the application of Hounds into the NBC plus Bal core, given the current meta and what you're likely to face? Jintan?
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a wise adaptation to the meta, but I don't think we can rest all of the kind of blame for Fraternity being able to pull out that match simply on those hounds. You know, we saw some very, I think, poor calls and also poor choices of zoning from that whole control team. They brought their Hugin back, but they weren't able to really screen off those Daredevils, and that forced them to spend very, very valuable time putting those heavy drones onto those Daredevils, and that doesn't track very well, and it takes a long time. And that's time they could have been spending taking out the very key threats of that Quad BC core, the Harbinger or the Navy Harbinger. That going down earlier would have saved a lot more of their core, which they then could have used to simply win the match faster.
Thank you very much, Bling Tan. Now, Nikal, we also saw in that drone comp there, we saw a Hugin. So recons are down to just 12 points this year, which is where we've seen a couple of Hugins, even a Rapier or two, and the Curses as well in other matches. Typically, we used to think of recons as ships that just bad sport. You'd go with that typical, double Domi Navy plus a Hugin to hold it down so those EFT DPS numbers can really apply, and it just got trashed every single time. Do you think that the Hugin is at a point where, with its new point value, with what tank you can get out of it in the meta scene, do you think that the Rapier is a solid choice in this drone comp to apply for webs, or do you prefer going with a Hyena? Do you prefer spending points on a Balgorn, or do you prefer some more heavy tackle, something that's going to run in and grab things, maybe fitting tackle to those utility mids of your drone ships rather than E-War-like attacking disruptors? What's your personal preference, and what's your take on the choice?
I do like the Rapier. Rapier and Hugin, both very, very strong ships here, especially with drone comps, because you can have a massive ball of drones, but unless they're actually catching up to the target and managing to get to their optimal ranges on it, there's no real point in having all those drones. They're just going to be chasing around hounds, chasing around other ships across the map until the end of the game. So having those Hugins there to web them down, allow it to get full application on it, and also allow your teammates to get in good range of them, I think is so valuable here. And against small ships like Hounds and Daredevils again having the webs, great to lock down targets as well, but very, very squishy, whereas the Rapier can tank a little bit more.
Yeah, now RocketX, I know you were watching the match back there. Were there any points in the match that you found particularly interesting, anything the pilots did, or any ship choices that you particularly liked of the entire match?
Well, personally, I'm a fan of the Balgorn. I think it's an incredible ship. I mean, we've seen the graphs for a lot of both neuting ships, Cap Warfare, and also on webbing ships. And we've seen the Balgorn crop up in both. Now, part of the reason that it's so popular is because of the massive utility you get out of this ship. It is capable of doing some DPS and reasonable DPS for a battleship if you fit it correctly, but also that massive neuting utility you get out of it, that also gives you some element of range control, and in complementing that web range bonus as well, you're gonna see things very rapidly unwind for an enemy team as long as it's used right. Now, you want to use a Balgorn where you've got either a battleship core or a battlecruiser core flying alongside it, so that you've got some kind of relatively heavy ships, and you're not going to move around too much. You are going to have some ability to chase, moving up to maybe a click a second, but no more than that. But you can still chase things down in an arena this size. So the Balgorn is an incredible ship, and I think we saw that win out in this case, simply whereas the Balgorn was able to apply those webs to slow the enemy ships down right the way through the match, and it was also able to shut down the enemy webs in terms of the Hugin. That Hugin was not webbing anything for the last 2.5 minutes of that match, simply because it had no cap. That Balgorn was completely controlling it. I think it's a great ship, and I think if you're using a Balgorn, you're definitely going to have an advantage, especially over a team that's only using a ship that has webs rather than that neuting ability as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Balgorn with its webs with the news has this kind of sphere of, if you enter here, you're just dead, you're just gone, and you can move that around the arena, force them to fly in certain directions and do whatever you want. And then, as you say as well, I think the thing we commonly say about the Balgorn as a flagship choice is that obviously you can make any Tech 1 or faction battleship your flagship, but the Balgorn is one where you just gain so much. So it's not about just choosing objectively the best battleship, which the Balgorn may or may not be. It's about choosing the one which you gain the most from having access to those flagship mods. So you get those dead space newts, you get the Toby webs, so that if you warp your Balgorn in at 0, you can web anything you want from the start of the match, because the highest range you can warp in is at 50. Then, of course, in addition to that, I've forgotten my point. No, I do remember. Vindicators are very cheap, so if you're up against a Vindy Rush, a little bit scary to do that with your Bal. But apparently it is time for the next match coming up, so we should talk a little bit about that. That is going to the next match coming up today. That's going to be We Want Your ISK going up against Shadow Cartel. Shadow Cartel, a team who has historically done very, very well in the Alliance tournament. Then a year or two ago, they lost a ton of their members. They just kind of hit a brick wall in terms of that progress, in terms of their achievement. And then We Want Your Risk being a brand new team coming this year, losing to Exodus in the first round, beating Requiem Eternal, and then Shadow Cartel, beating of Sound Mind, and losing to Northern Coalition. So we are on about time, so let's send it over to the casters for Shadow Cartel versus We Want Your Risk.
Welcome back, I'm Rain, and I'm joined by Sutonia for this match with